Have you been through a narcissist discard, or are you afraid that it's going to happen soon? In this video, I'm going to tell you about what the discard is, why the narcissist discards you, and I'm going to answer 3 of the most common questions that I hear about the discard. Then at the end, I'm going to give you some tips on what to do. This is Meredith Miller, and you're listening to the Inner Integration YouTube channel where you can learn how to self-heal after narcissistic abuse. The word discard means to get rid of someone or something that's no longer useful or desirable. So in the case of the narcissist, the psychopath, the other abuser, they will discard you for a new form of supply, for someone else, an easier prey. They will throw you away like a piece of garbage in the most cruel way so that you feel terribly rejected, not good enough. And it could be the most hurtful form of betrayal that you've ever experienced. Why did they discard you? First, you likely became more aware. You became woke to what was going on. That's not acceptable for a person who's trying to deceive and con you. Number 2, you called out their behavior, either as manipulative, abusive, or simply unacceptable. Maybe you wanted to talk about things that happened that they had yet to own responsibility for. That's unacceptable to a narcissist or another abuser because their whole shtick is to avoid self-responsibility. So they will find somebody else who doesn't do that. Another reason they'll discard you is when you start to set new boundaries. That means they're getting less narcissistic supply from you, so they need to go find someone else who has less boundaries. Another reason they'll discard you is they're finding their tricks just don't work on you anymore. You're learning how to respond instead of reacting emotionally, giving them that narcissistic supply. That's no fun for them. They want someone who is going to put up with their tricks, who they're going to be able to get out of that person what they want. Another reason they'll discard you, and it might even be the saddest one, is they literally drained you dry. Like you have no more narcissistic supply to give to them. They've drained your bank account, your emotions, your physical health. Maybe now you're sick and that's an excuse for them to discard you. Maybe you don't look as beautiful or as handsome anymore because all that stress is really taking away from the radiance that you have, from the life force energy that you have, from the beauty and the radiance that you remember yourself before. Have you ever seen those before and after abuse photos that people will sometimes upload online and in support groups? That's why they have drained everything out of you so they can no longer get more supply from you. They need a new source of supply. The bottom line, why they discarded you, was they found an easier source of supply. So the question everybody wants to know is, do they miss you? Right? You're there dying because you miss this person. No matter how they treated you, you still miss them. You still love them. Do they miss you? Let me ask you a question. How long did you think about a piece of garbage that you threw in the trash this morning? Do you even remember what you threw in the trash this morning? That's how the narcissist sees people. It's just an object. People are just throwawayable, as if they were a piece of garbage or a toy that broke that no longer serves them. The next question everybody wants to know is, how could they do that? Like once you really understand what the discard is and what happened to you, the next logical question is, how could someone do that to you? The answer is objectification. You're not a sovereign, sentient being to them. You're just an object, an appliance, something to be used and thrown away when it no longer serves them. When your narcissistic supply dries up, your usefulness has expired to them, and that's why they'll throw you away like a piece of garbage. And on top of that, they'll act then like you never even existed to them. They can do that because your truth is inconvenient to them and the reality that they're spinning. So they have to completely write you off. Another question people will ask is, will they come back? Now, I want to encourage you not to do this. This is very dangerous thinking, and yes, quite likely they will come back. It's called hoovering. I'm going to put the link to that video up in the corner. If you don't know about hoovering yet, or if you want to refresh your mind and the kind of things that can happen in that hoovering process, because Even if the narcissist discarded you, instead of you just setting no contact, because those are the two options that usually happen. Either you go no contact or they discard you. But even when they discard you, you can expect that they'll come back in attempts to hoover you back in. They'll usually do that when their new supply sets boundaries and they're no longer getting that narcissistic supply from them, or even to triangulate with their new supply. So maybe they went through that whole love bombing phase with the new supply and now they're ready to go to devaluation. So they're looking for someone else to triangulate with against that new supply. So maybe they come back to you for some positive supply to try to make their new supply jealous. And that's all they're doing. They're just playing with you. They're messing with your mind. And every time you let them back in, it will escalate and it will get worse. When they come back, it's always temporary and it's always a means to an end. It's always to make someone else jealous or because they're desperately looking for a new sense of supply. It is never because of you. It is never because they love you. It is never because they miss you. They just need supply. If you don't know about narcissistic supply yet, check out the video I did a couple years ago on that so you can really understand what is this energetic and emotional currency that the narcissist, psychopath, and other abuser needs to survive. So what do you do if you've been through the heart-wrenching experience of a discard? The most important thing is that you start your healing process. The sooner, the better. If you're just starting that process, check out the link in the upper corner. You can get access to a free ebook. It's my quick start guide to recovery after narcissistic abuse. I'm going to help you through those 3 most important first steps that you'll take in your healing process. Number 2, give yourself closure. Understand you're never going to get closure from them. They will refuse to give you that. They will only blame shift to you and try to get you to take responsibility for things, making you feel worse and more traumatized than you even were before. Give that closure to yourself. Number 3, integrate 2 very important mantras. 1, it was not your fault. 2, you are worthy. That's one of the biggest crushes to your sense of self and self-esteem and self-worth, is you just feel so worthless after someone rejects you and throws you away like a piece of garbage. So remind yourself of those 2 mantras. 4, make sure you cut the cords to that person. That's cutting the energetic cords. You can look online. There's all kinds of free examples out there. I have one on my website for $5. It's a guided meditation with some amazing music in the background to help shift you out of that space. But you got to cut those cords, because if you don't cut that connection between you guys, it's going to be a lot harder to move on, and you're constantly going to be sending and receiving energy and information back and forth. And finally, and this can be the hardest one, but it can also be the one that's going to help you the most, is focus on the gratitude. Not the gratitude of all that they hurt you, but the gratitude that they did you a favor by walking away. They did you a favor by leaving, so you didn't have to make that difficult decision, because every day that you would have stayed more is more traumatization that you would have experienced. And also, be grateful that they're not your problem anymore. If you're getting insecure and jealous and doubtful because you see them with new supply out there, remind yourself, thank God that person is not my problem anymore. If this video helped you at all to understand the narcissist discard, to put to rest some of those common questions, and to know what to do now, give it a like. Let me know in the comments if you want to share something encouraging, something motivating, something insightful for other people going through this, who are suffering through that right now, because you get it, you know, because you've been there. Leave that in the comments below. That can be so helpful to people who are going through those comments, trying to make sense of what just happened to them. I'm sending you a big hug.